Hello, everyone, and welcome to Overexposed, the BWRM Podcast, where we talk all things real estate marketing. I'm Jacqui Kirk.
And my name's Dave, and this week we're talking to Melissah Douglas from Canberra. Hey, Melissah.
Hello.
Lovely to have you here, Melissah. Welcome. You're coming to us from Canberra. You haven't always lived in Canberra, have you?
I have not. We moved to Canberra in July 2020. For me, I had a 20-year stint in Sydney, and before that, actually born and raised in country New South Wales in a town called Gunnedah.
Oh, and you're running your business as BWRM Canberra, is that?
Yes, I am BWRM North Canberra.
What was the trigger for moving from Sydney to Canberra?
Quite a few reasons, both personal and business. So we had sold a business in Sydney on the Northern Beaches, and we were deciding what was next for us as a family and also as individuals, and knew that we wanted to leave Sydney. That big thing called COVID gave us a bit of a push along. And the timing was just right. And so we actually packed up right in the middle of the initial pandemic and chose a new city. We chose Canberra for a number of reasons. All of Andrew's family are here, which was a huge part, including our boys. So my stepkids, Andrew's kids, we'd been going back and forth from Sydney to Canberra for years. And it was just time to all be in the one place. So, yeah, it was a big mix of reasons, but it just all came together due to COVID.
Awesome. So Mel, you weren't always a real estate photographer. What was it that you did before?
No, I've only been a real estate photographer for 2.5 years. So Andrew and I owned Ray White Balgala on the Northern Beaches of Sydney, real estate franchise there. So we had that for 5 years. Prior to that, we both came out of corporate. I had a long-standing career in Ray White corporately in their head office, and Andrew also had a long-standing career in the financial sector across a few different businesses as well. And we left our corporate careers to start up our own business in real estate, one of the hardest things I've ever done in my life. And, we gave it 5 years in Sydney and then sold that in 2019.
It's interesting you say it's one of the hardest things you've done. What was the hard thing? You had to choose one.
Andrew and I are very similar in a lot of ways, where we will just jump into things with both feet. We don't overanalyze the situation before we start. So we started in the beaches taking in a big brand that was not well received in the area. So it was an area dominated by boutiques. As Jacqui will know, Cunningham's are absolutely massive in Balgala. And then there were, some other Clark and Hummel, down in Manly. You sort of butted right in between Seaforth and Manly. So there were some big businesses already there. So we were coming in with, one, no experience, two, not a single client to our name, no history in the area, and just like, we're here and we're going to give this a go. So the fact that we got through 5 years, I think, was pretty amazing. But just starting from scratch in real estate in an area that was already booming, it's actually very hard to get cut through.
I think I can start to see a pattern forming as well.
That's really interesting, because you've kind of you've done it with real estate, and then you did it all over again with real estate photography. What was the experience like in comparison?
So when you're running a real estate office, you have to have presence. You have to have a shop front. You have to have staff, really. You can do it on your own, but it becomes very unmanageable very quickly for what we were trying to do. So your overheads in running a real estate office, for starters, are just huge. So like before we even woke up every day, it was $60,000 just to keep the doors open every month. So you've got that ticking around. That's not $60,000 with paying Andrew and I either. That's just rent, staff, insurances, like everything that it takes to keep a real estate shop front open. So yes, when I went, you know what, I'm going to do this again. I'm going to start somewhere new. I'm going to start a new business again. The big factor for me was it was just me, and I was confident enough in myself that I knew what it took to start a business, but I didn't have to pay anyone but myself. So I only had to look after Andrew and I. I knew the costs outgoing for BWRM. I knew, I could do some things around hiring equipment to start with rather than buying it out. So I was able to keep those startup costs so low in comparison. I'm not saying it's nothing. It's not nothing to start this business either, but in comparison to what we had done, it was quite a significant difference.
What kind of triggered the jump? So you've got this history in real estate and in corporate, in real estate as an agent. What was it that then made you decide to pack that in and start a whole new career path? What was the attraction?
Well, there's a few reasons. This is where you come into it, Jacqui.
Questions I've done my research, listeners.
Yeah. So for those listening, Jacqui, Andrew and Liam were all photographers for our business at Ray White Bag Gala. It was a beautiful relationship. We thoroughly enjoyed working with the BWRM team. That's not how we started. We actually started with Campaign Track and then drifted away from them. We'll probably get onto that. But when we had sold the business, so I love photography. I've been photographing since I was in school. I learnt on film. I've just always considered myself a hobby photographer. I've never really given it any, geez, I'm good at this sort of thought, but have always loved it. And then, Jacqui, I know you actually went to my husband Andrew first, and it's like, hey, if Mel's ever interested in becoming a contractor at the time we sold our business. And honestly, I was like, oh God, yeah, I would love to do that. What an amazing, I would love to do that. And I wasn't even thinking about starting my own business again. I was just like, I just want to go and do something that I enjoy with somebody I like. So that was really the thought that went into it. As I said, I actually don't overthink starting things. I overthink once I'm in it.
Awesome. So you came on as a contractor. I was obviously really stoked. I think in future podcast, guys, we'll talk about all the challenges of finding really amazing contractors and changing them up. And then Mel sat me down one day and, you felt so bad as well, but she was just like,
there were tears.
But why don't you tell us what happened then?
Yeah, look, the intention was actually to stay in Sydney a bit longer. So I had full intention of probably doing at least a year to two with you and then seeing where that went. But as I said, the pandemic hit and it just changed a lot of things for us in terms of decisions. And we made them very quickly and decided now was the time to pack up and leave. So we did. So yes, I did have to give you a buzz and have a coffee and tell you that after my very short stint of being your contractor, I was moving to Canberra. And that's when you said, I think you should have a go at this there, which again, I don't really think I was considering. I think I was considering moving here and just getting a job and then seeing if I could do this somehow to get myself off the ground. But instead, I just, again, went in feet first.
I'm really interested to hear what that experience was like, because it wasn't just you on your own moving to Canberra to start this business. Your husband, Andrew, was doing the same thing, and he was also starting as a real estate agent in a new territory, in a place, from scratch. So both of you in this house starting businesses from scratch, that must have been a very scary, exciting time. What was that like?
Both. Yeah, definitely scary for both of us. Yeah, Andrew came here, and so Andrew's originally from Canberra. He's been away for 25 years or more. So he had some good connections here already, and that was probably the part that was exciting, because in a way, I knew he had connections that would get him started in real estate, which it did. So he hit the ground running here really quickly, which we were both not expecting that to happen as fast, because starting real estate anywhere it's just a slog. It's one of the hardest jobs. I have so much admiration for the people that we do business for. So he got in with LJ Hooker initially because he had some old connections there and hit the ground running, did about a year with them, but knew fairly well about 6 months into it that he wanted to be with a different group and a different brand. So he's now with Bell, which are Canberra's #1 agency across the whole territory.
Amazing.
When you made the change, you're probably one of the few people who's made the change from being in real estate to being in real estate photography or real estate marketing. Was there anything that sort of surprised you? Obviously, you said you've been dealing with photographers before. So was there anything that surprised you when you made the jump across to the photography side?
Oh, loads. You just don't know of the ins and outs of what we do every day. So for me, going to a photography appointment as a real estate agent, it's just exciting. I just always loved it. It's like, this is great. I loved watching, what Jacqui and Liam and Andrew did. And whilst you try, I try not to encroach on anything, just let them do their job. But I just liked the appointments. And then when you're doing it, the appreciation of getting that back the next day, the consistency of it, the ease of the system, all that kind of stuff, really as an agent, I just took for granted. It was just there when I woke in the morning, without fail, off you go, load your photos, put the property online. So for me now doing it, and yes, it is about taking great photos and being thoughtful and composing and try and bring the best out of every property. But you know what goes into those flippant comments that I have definitely guilty of making. You can just edit that out, or you can just do that, or you can just do that. So, can you remove that, Mel? Or what do you want to touch here? Well, nothing, because it's disgusting. So mostly they're not disgusting for me. I'm very lucky. But there is so much in what we do that involves thought, care, detail, really looking at the room, looking at the photo, looking at all those little things that get in the way. I say to my clients, I just like to remove distractions. I don't want anyone to get their photo back, or a buyer or a tenant to look at a photo and go, oh, they left that in there. Or, oh, why is that in there? So I definitely took that for granted as an agent, didn't realise how much care goes into actually delivering a bang-on product the next day.
In the same kind of breath then, you moved to Canberra, you're pretty fresh, you've been contracting a while, and now you've set yourself this task of building up a business. Did you have an idea of where you wanted your business to be within a certain time frame, or were you just kind of winging it?
I was winging it big time.
No. I'm shocked, Mel.
I think we're sensing a theme. I got here and honestly, I thought if I can turn over 10 grand a month within about a year, that was my basic thought, then that's great. Andrew will do his thing. He's a cracking agent. He'll be fine. I'll turn over this, that'll help, and I'll be doing something I really enjoy doing. So that was my very base level. I was like, if I can get to 10 grand a month, that seems good. That seems great. I can stay self-employed. I don't have to go back to working, all that kind of stuff, working for someone else. So that's my thought when I got here. I didn't delay when I got here. I literally within 2 days was out in real estate offices introducing myself. So I say that I was winging it, but I was determined to hit the ground, do everything I could to get started. So I was driving around as soon as I had my marketing material, dropping that in, introducing myself, following up with emails, doing all that sort of stuff. And that was before I'd done the sales course. But yeah, I knew what I had to do to even just get a start.
Do you think being involved in a real estate agency before gave you a specific advantage in getting new work? Was there anything that you thought, aha, I know what they want to hear, or something like that?
Probably not in the initial, not when you're just walking in straight away, because I would never lead with that. I would never lead with, I've owned a real estate business. And one thing you don't lead within Canberra is, I've moved from Sydney. So they don't want to hear that. So hi, I'm Mel, I'm a photographer, which sounded very foreign to me to say. And here's my price list. Who are the best contacts? Take business cards and just follow up. I kept it as brief as possible. What I would say now, though, is yes, there's lots of things from my real estate business that do help me day to day, that I just know. I know the pain they're going through. I know, or the joy, or the roller coaster. I know what it takes for them to get a listing. I know what it takes for them to fight against listings and lose one, and your world get crushed. And so Yes, it helps me in a lot of my business now that I'm established. But in terms of saying, hey, I used to own a real estate business, that didn't really come into it until relationships were built or people started Googling me to work out where I'd come from.
So a lot of people probably assume that, okay, well, she went in, her husband was an agent, she had that work straight away, but that wasn't necessarily the case, was it?
No, not at all. So as I mentioned earlier, Andrew went to LJ Hooker when he first moved here, LJ Hooker Dixon, and they were signed with Decrit. And I knew that before we arrived in Canberra. So I knew straight up I wasn't getting LJ Hooker's business, and they've got a number of franchises across Canberra. So that ruled out essentially the majority of them, except one that I shoot for, which is Monica. They're a rogue. So it wasn't about coming here and relying on even getting Andrew's work, because we both knew that it might take him 6 months to get his first listing here. So it's not like my husband was going to be feeding me business either. So very well aware that I had to go and find my own business, which is what I did.
How did you find the process of going out and hunting for business? Was it something that happened really quickly for you, or was it very difficult?
So the process of hunting for business, I don't think it's ever easy. It's not easy because you've got to put yourself out there and you are trying to take something off someone else, and I find that difficult. We don't like it when it happens to us. So the thought of going out and trying to do the same thing. So my sort of strategy with that is always just be myself. And one of my previous business coaches in Ray White would always say, just be easy to deal with. That is always in the back of my head. Just be easy to deal with. So when you're meeting people, just make it easy for them to like you, to say yes, to smile at them, to be friendly, to care. So that's kind of my strategy with getting business. The second part is from my corporate background. I've got education in business development and learning and training development. So I'm on the follow-up side, I'm incredibly structured. So follow-up emails, follow-up phone calls, just really well-written emails, opportunity to touch base. So I was doing all of that in the background, and that was my process. The first big win I got when I got here was LJ Hooker Monica. So for those who don't know Canberra well, Monica, Griffith, Kingston, all those inner south areas are where the big agencies predominantly are. And they gave me my first shot. And that has led onto a flow-on effect that's been amazing for me. But and I still work for them. But they were the first ones to go, Mel, we've already got a photographer, but we really like you. We'd like to give you a go. Can you come and shoot this property? So, and that was 2 years ago.
I guess going back to your first point about being easy to deal with, it sounds like something that has sort of come across from when you were in real estate. You said when you were in real estate, when it was shoot day, you were very excited about going to the property and, seeing the shoot. From a photographer point of view, it sounds like you've learned people are going to be excited. Don't put a downer on it. Like, make it a good couple of hours, whatever.
100%. Or try your best to read the room. Like, we go into situations every day. Sometimes they're happy. Sometimes they're really sad. You're dealing with a parent who's just passed away, or, God, I even get teary. This is just who I am. You walk in sometimes and it's been really rough for them. So the best thing I can do is give them a nice experience. And that's pretty cool. What a great job. Yeah. I walk into shoots where people are doing what I'm doing right now, where they'll be crying when I get there because it's just been huge. It's been really emotional, just getting to the point of getting things tidied up, getting it ready. You deal with divorces, you deal with all sorts of stuff. So for me, knowing, walking into a job every time, being there with a big smile, introducing yourself, I'm here to, how's the process been? Before I even get started, how have you been today? Has it been hectic? How are you feeling? Are there any final things you need to do? Just give them a bit of breathing room before you just charge in and set up your camera and, well, I'm here and I'm doing my job. being easy to deal with in my mindset is it's a big scope of things, and a lot of it is very much being in tune with what you're walking into in the home.
It's a really interesting balance that you've got, Mel, I think, of professionalism, like with your follow-up emails and being on time and just making sure all of those things are done professionally, but a real sensitivity to your agents and what they've gone through to get the listings, and then also to their clients. And I think that combination has just been, unbeatable, obviously, and really interesting that you don't have to be one or the other. You can be professional and human and kind, and it actually all works together in this sort of role. From what I've seen over the last 2 years, your business seems to have had two tipping points. There seems to be the period of time where you were busting your chops, like visiting agents and trying to build up that work. And then it got to a point where you got really busy really quickly. It was like a slow, is this right? It was kind of like a slow climb. And then it almost felt like overnight something changed and you were the go-to person for photography. What do you think that was that triggered that?
I was thinking about this, and I would say there's a couple of things that happened. So through COVID, Canberra was really quite immune for a long time. Like, we were open. Real estate never shut down. So like when I moved here in 2020, in the thick of it all, everything was still operating, but just with restrictions in place. So you could still be out, it was social distancing, it was masks, it was all that kind of stuff. And if you were going to photo shoots, you were often there on your own. So you had to be there solo. Funnily enough, then when Canberra did get its first real big outbreak in 2021, and we did have to go lockdown, that's when I had my best week ever. And looking back at it, I attribute it to a couple of things. My mantra, be easy to deal with. I was available. I was prepared for COVID. Also, having come from Sydney, and we had to have all that COVID procedure in place for our real estate business before we left anyway. So I was all over that. And I use an online booking system called Calendly, which means that nobody had to pick up the phone. They didn't have to check with a vendor and then get back to me. They could open my calendar, book the slot. It comes through to me, it comes through to them. It's locked in, off I go. So Calendly has been an enormous part of my business, and it's something that my agents refer to on a daily basis. So it's just an online booking system, but it just makes their life easy. So if they're sitting in a listing appointment on a Sunday, they don't have to worry about trying to call me. They don't have to worry about trying to email me or waiting for me to return their call on Monday. They just book in the available time that's there. So that was a huge part in that period. So that we're talking about that August sort of period of 2021. From August 2021, I really did take off. Like at the end of that year, I was starting to get really consistent every week, just constant work every week. Went into Christmas period, thought, yep, I can have a little break. This is good. I had a break, came back in January. Andrew and I both got COVID. All the work I had booked in for that first week of January, my return, I had to give away, and it knocked my confidence. I thought, shit, I've lost my momentum, but I hadn't. And as soon as my books were open again and I was cleared, it kind of just took off from there. So I would say, like, from January 2022, let's go August 2021, little bit of a breather around that Christmas period, and then it's just been building. The absolute, I can't believe that I've got this much work. What am I going to do with it all? Happened about mid last year.
Okay. Do you think there was another tipping point for that? Because that was the second one I was thinking about, was that first one to consistent work where you go, cool, I'm earning a living, this is worth it. And then to, holy shit, I'm booked out 2 weeks in advance.
So there's a couple of things that happened. I've had Belle on for quite a while. It took me a year to get in with Belle. When I first moved here, it took me a year from moving here to get my first job from Belle. That started to be quite steady and consistent, and a few people had sort of really liked what I did in there and they were using me, but not the whole team. Then a couple of things happened, and so then Belle would start to book me for their profile photos, just headshots for the office. So they're seeing me in their office. I'm starting to get introduced as this is Mel, one of our photographers, whereas now I'm Mel, this is our photographer, even though I'm still actually one of their photographers, but the language around that has really changed. And then a couple of those original clients that I had, I mentioned LJ Hooker Manica. So Tyron had left Manica. He had moved on to another company called Heyman Partners. Heyman Partners are a top 3 agency in Canberra. He's like got over there and gone, your photography is not that great. I know Mel. She used to shoot for me. Can you meet her? So he got me in to Heyman Partners. I mean, I sent him a bottle of wine when he moved. Hope it goes well. Like, I do all that sort of stuff. If someone's moving, I'm going to try my best to keep them or to get in with that office. So that big tipping point, I would say, was last winter when Heyman Partners started using me as well.
So there's 2 really interesting things that have come from that. You didn't just wait for it to happen. Your agent didn't move and you didn't just kind of hope that he liked you enough. You actively sent him the wine and the note, which has got a bit of strategy. And then also you said it took like a year before you got that first shoot with Belle. How many times were you visiting them? What was your process for that year to get that shoot?
Yeah, so my process was, so I initially went in, introduced myself. I followed through with an email to the directors. Their PA, executive assistant, replied to me and just said, thanks, we'll keep your details on file, that kind of thing. I then found out that there was a connection between the office that we sold our rent roll to in Sydney and these directors. And then I also worked out that the director here of Belle used to be in Sydney as Red Property. So there were all these little dot points and I'm like, Northern Beaches. And then funnily enough, when they had received my email, Richard had actually gone, oh, we know Mel and Andrew. They used to own Ray White Bag Gala. Let's see how long they stick it out in Canberra. So they just sat on it for a bit and I just kept following up. I didn't know that in the background though. I didn't know that Richard had clicked who we were and they were just sort of, let's just wait and see. So I followed up again and gosh, this is probably about another 6 months on. I didn't hear anything and then I followed up again maybe another 3 months after that and Kate had come back to me and said, we'd love to meet you. Would you like to come in? So I was like, oh my God. So got myself prepared for that. Went in and met with Kate, their EA, and the directors. And then I got my first shoot the following week from Bree, who is their number 1 agent.
Wow.
So the client referrals thing's really interesting. And I think that's a really good tactic for people to pick up on. When agents move from one agency to another, it's a great time to grow your business because if you can if you can be the person who's easy to deal with and, and does good quality work, then you can hopefully spread your wings a bit more to new agencies. But I'm interested in the bit before that, which is I remember when you first began and you were obviously, you were in the struggle part where you don't have much work and you can't see much work coming. I remember that we started the new member workshop and you were one of the first ones in there. I think you were one of the first people on the sales course as well. And suddenly your numbers went from, I do a bit of photography on the side to I run a photography business.
Yeah.
I wonder what it was that made you go from the one to the other. What would you think?
So the sales course, is just, for me, it's just imperative. It doesn't matter if you've done it before. I mean, I've done loads of sales training and corporate career, they love to pump you through that stuff. So you do it, but until it's in a relevant environment for something you're doing at that point in time, most of it, I think, just goes in one ear and out the other. So here I am starting again in Canberra going, I need someone to help me stay accountable. I knew what I wanted to do. I know I've done it before. I know I can do it. And then in equal parts, but what if I can't? And then the sales course for me was just that weekly straightener where you've got to report back. And for me, that just came into my old corporate days. I had to report back. I was responsible to people above me. So reporting to people and telling them your stats, your figures, who you've brought on, what revenue you're bringing in, blah, blah, blah. I'm used to that. I'm good with that. Tell me what to do. Tell me what to go out and get, and I'll get it. So the sales training, that's what that was for me. That was just like being back in a corporate environment going, yep, great. I have to report back to you each week. I've got stuff to do. I've got homework to do. I'm going to do it. And it just helped me build my confidence again as well. And just that confidence of now I'm really just doing this on my own. Like I didn't have Andrew by my side in a business sense. Yes, as a husband, but he was off doing his thing. I don't have a team around me. It is just me. So the sales course was amazing for that.
I remember you coming to the new member workshop one week and suddenly going, I'm going to hit my target by June. And it was quite clear that was a decision you'd made. Did that come from the sales course, or was that from the accountability thing of having to come to the meetings every week and tell people how far you got, or every month rather? Was the sales course and the meetings a trigger for that, do you think?
Yeah, definitely. I would say it was probably more the sales course, like that, doing that and then just getting into the new member workshop and seeing familiar faces and knowing that we're all doing the same thing at the same time in our lives it's just really comforting, you know. So you start to feel less alone, and then it's like, cool, I've got people who, this is like my team at corporate where we're all just reporting in on what's working, what's not, taking each other's ideas, making them your own. So yeah, absolutely. It wasn't about coming into that workshop and going, I'm going to show you. It was, I'm going to show me. Like it's always me. For me, it's, I'm going to prove this to myself. My expectations on myself are ridiculous. It's just who I am. And so it was proving to me that I said I'm going to do it and I'm going to do it. And I did.
I remember the dance when you hit it as well, still the only person to dance in a new member workshop. So if anyone else is listening, up you game.
So Mel, for people listening, I think some of the things that new people starting ask us is, how long is this going to take me to be earning a decent living? So how long do you think it took you to be earning something that rivaled a salary or a wage or something that you could live off?
I'm going to answer that question when I actually started paying myself consistently and believing that it would be there again the next week. So there's two parts to that. I probably could have paid myself a lot earlier on a consistent basis, but chose to keep it in the business. So, and just paid myself minimum wage for a long time. So really, I would say it's been the last 9 months. I've paid myself every week without fail the same amount. And yeah, it surpasses anything I ever earned in corporate.
Wow. So about a year and a half-ish to get to the point where you earned more than you earned in corporate?
Yeah, let's say 18 months for me. I mean, I think some will do that quicker. It depends on what you want to earn at the end of the day. Like the money side of it for me, yeah, I have big ambitions based on things I want to do with our life and with money and whatever it may be. I want to be comfortable. I want our family to be comfortable. I don't want to work for someone else ever again. So in order for me to do that, I need to make big money that is going to give us the lifestyle we want. I'm not shy about admitting that. That's part of my goals. So yeah, for me, it is about surpassing what I earned in corporate, and you can earn some big, beautiful money in corporate. So prove to yourself you can do that without the man or the woman, and that's what I'm doing.
I think that was really interesting. I remember chatting to your husband, Andrew, over some drinks at our last conference, and he was just absolutely staggered by how much you were earning and how well you were doing, because I think when you're a real estate agent and you're looking at your comms and you're just kind of paying your photographer for that little service, they don't see us as big business owners, do they? They see us as just a trade.
No, and I think there is a benefit in talking to them on that same level. Like I am very, very fortunate that I work with some of the best agents in Canberra. I talk to them business to business level. You know, I will, with those that I really trust, and when they ask questions, I will talk to them about my turnover, and I will talk to them about what I do in a week, in a month. And I think it's actually solidifies that relationship even more when the best know they're dealing with someone else who's as driven as them. And I am driven. I am driven to be the best. I am constantly, like, just even looking at my photos going, how could that have been better today? Like, what could I have done to make a better photo out of that? So being on that level of that, in a lot of ways, it is in that sales environment. which I have a lot of experience in. Like for like is a good thing, and embrace it. Embrace that you want to see yourself as the best and you want to see yourself up there next to the best agents. I want to deal with those people. You know why? Because their properties are better, because they trust you, because they're ready for sale, because their vendors are bloody lovely, because they care about what you do. Find those people and work with those people. Yeah, it's just really enjoyable then. And you get to make money as well.
And what's your, just to give people an idea, what's your workload these days, Mel, like in terms of amount of jobs or turnover, whatever you want to share?
Yeah, sure. So I did my stats on last year. I did a calendar year summary last year in December, sat down and looked at what I did. So calendar year for 2022, I shot 920 properties solo, and I think I did 410 in my turnover. So this year I have hit the ground running in January. There has been absolutely not a week that hasn't been full since I started back this year. So I am absolutely on track for $500,000, which is part of my goals again. So that, you know, that may resonate with some, it may not. It's not the be all and end all. That's just part of what I'm striving to do. At a bare minimum each week, I turn over 10. That's now I won't go below that. And that is about anywhere between 25 and 30 jobs a week.
Wow. So, and you're doing that all by yourself. That's kind of what's blowing my mind. Like, is that your next tipping point? I suppose your next struggle now is how to make that sustainable. And we spoke earlier this week about some small changes you've made to improve your quality of life with that sort of workload, but also some small changes you're starting to make with your business to help it scale even larger. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, absolutely. There is a risk of being able to consistently deliver at that level. I feel it. Like, don't get me wrong, I get to Friday night and I am wrecked. But even if I wake tired, as soon as I start shooting and meeting people and saying g'day and smiling, I love what I do. It gives me all my energy back for the day. I'm good to go. I do have a contractor, David, who we've had a very stop-start sort of relationship. We're starting to get in a good groove. I've already allocated him 6 jobs next week. I think when I looked this morning, there's already 26 bookings. I've still got room to move in there because I've given him 6. So I've got spaces available next week where ordinarily that would fill me up like 26 to 30 jobs. So I am starting to get on that groove. So I'm still doing the lion's share, but it's allowing me to fit more in and look after my best clients. You know, I want to know that if one of them call me and say, hey, Mel, we need you, that I can make that work. So I'm really working on that contractor relationship, and I'll need to have a second one on pretty soon. I'll need to have them on well and truly before winter. So that's happening. And then in terms of things I set for myself this year, because of the workload, I made a little change to my mornings. I don't start shooting before 10. I was doing 8 a.m. shoots. I was doing anything to fit everybody in. And it was just creating a level of stress in the morning for me that was not enjoyable to start my day that way. So by starting at 10, I can still go for a run. I can deliver my jobs. I can review things properly. I was starting to review things really haphazardly, and then you have issues. So I made that change. I only do twilights 3 nights a week because I physically just can't do twilights and shoot all day, 5 days a week. It's too much. So I only do Monday to Wednesday twilights. And Thursday nights, my husband and I go Latin dancing. So that's our new thing. And it's great to just put the tools down and go and think about something else where you can't think about work because you're too worried about what your feet and your arms are doing. So that's awesome. So that's been really good.
Wow.
And then I'd say the third component, and a very big component to all of that, is having Mirinda and her team looking after my emails and everything during the day. So when I am with my clients, I am with my clients. My phone is not anywhere near me. It is in my bag. I do not answer calls on site. I do not look at messages. I just am there for that job, and Mirinda's dealing with everything else. So that's huge for me.
Awesome. I've got 2 more questions because I know we're kind of running a bit low on time. The first one, I wanted to ask you about is you've come into Canberra. I just want to talk to you a little bit about your competition, because it's another thing that people really want to know is like, what's my edge? I'm going in and you're either going up against someone who's on their own with a big relationship or big companies. What were your competitors like when you came in and how did you win?
So I'll start answering that by saying it'll probably surprise most people listening to know that there is not one office that solely uses me. So all of my clients, I do not have exclusive relationships with any of them. They have a panel of photographers and I am one on a panel of all of those businesses. And I am really cool with that. I don't want to change that. I don't want a business to say, "Hell, Mel, we just want you," because I can't handle it. I couldn't even handle it with just me and Dave. So I am one of many. So I think I've only met a few of my competitors. What I learned quickly about competitors in Canberra, a lot of individuals. So not many businesses at all, certainly not branded like BWRM. A lot of individual photographers who self-edit. So for me, that was probably where I really started to get my traction, is when I would very proudly say, I don't edit. I have a team for that. All of a sudden, people start to look at you like, oh, what do you mean you've got a team? Why, we've got people who do all our editing. It's consistent. It gets done overnight. You can have it back the next day. It comes through our system, easy download, all that kind of stuff. So here we are, or like we're going from someone who self-edits, might deliver in 24 hours if you're lucky. We'll deliver it in a Dropbox in no particular order, which you've got to, fumble through and find the images. Might deliver you 60 images to go through and you pick which ones you want to use. So that's what I was competing with. Whilst they were good photographers, don't get me wrong, there are a lot of great photographers in Canberra. They don't have the backing that we have of BWRM, and that's been huge for me. Once people get used to that, it's very hard for them to go backwards.
I think that goes back to what you were saying before about the businesses being essentially peers. You're not dealing with a bloke who has a camera. It's an actual business that's running with a team behind it, and and quality procedures in place and all of that kind of thing. So it's the same message, really, isn't it?
It is. And I would say, again, talk about it. Make sure you talk about it with your clients. Explain to them how your business works. I'll ask my editors or, let me check and I'll get back to you. My team can take care of that. Miranda's on my emails today. She'll take care of that while I'm out. Talk about the people behind you, because it makes a difference, and it's very comforting for an agent to know that they're not just relying on you, or them feeling like, I'm going to email Mel and she's not going to get back to me till tonight. So, I'm not saying everyone's using Miranda. Obviously they're not at this stage, but when you get into those sort of stages, really hone in on the fact that we are a part of something much bigger, and that helps us be efficient and it helps us be reliable and consistent. And, that at the end of the day, that's what your agent needs from you: reliability, consistency, and be easy to deal with.
That's wonderful, Mel. I guess to finish, if there was something that you could go and tell Mel starting out, 2.5 years ago, what would you say to yourself looking back now?
Yeah, on a personal level, just back yourself. Like for me, Mel, you can do this. Just do it. Just go and do it. Just be yourself.
I think Mel would have just jumped in regardlce of what you said anyway, by the sound of it.
Yeah, she did. She did. So, yeah, just when you've actually, in so much of it, you've just got nothing to lose. Just have a crack, give it a go for 3 months. If you've got that financial backing for 3 months where you can just have a crack and give it your all, because there are people who have gotten, further down the track quicker than I did. Just have a crack. What's the worst thing that can happen? You change, you don't do it, or you become incredibly successful and you love what you do every day. So, just jump in. And then in terms of business, what would I do differently? There's a few things that I've created rods for my back, I must admit. But in looking at it, I don't think I probably would do it any other way anyway. So the things are, I'm an early morning person. I'm delivering jobs at 6 a.m. That's who I am, because I would rather deliver jobs at 6 a.m. and then go for a run, have breakfast with my husband, enjoy a cup of coffee sitting down, and then get ready for work, rather than wait till 9 to teach them that I'm not going to deliver before 9. That's not my strategy. So I deliver early morning. My clients are used to that. I get everything off my plate before I walk out the door, and that lets me leave with a clear head. So some people might disagree with that. That's how I work. But then also teaching, the other thing big for me, teaching my clients that I'm not available on the weekend. I'm not going to reply to you. I will give you my all Monday to Friday, but the weekends are mine. So yeah, they're the things. I don't know whether that's a lesson. That's something I've learned that I'm okay with. I think I was trying to teach myself a lesson, but I'm okay with it.
Well, I think what it shows me is that you, like you said, you're no longer working for the man and then just trying to have whatever life you can have within that. You've built the life that you wanted with your husband, and you're working. Your business is fitting into that. It's enhancing that, and it's all kind of part of the same thing. And yeah, that's a powerful thing.
Yeah, and I think it's getting really comfortable with doing it the way that it works for you. And this works for me. It works for me to run my business this way, and how I use my mornings and all that kind of stuff. I'm really comfortable with that, and I like having my clients feel like they're getting the best of me, and that I will give them everything I possibly can within reason. Like, I will give them my energy Monday to Friday, and then rest and recoup and go again.
Well, Mel, it has been an absolute delight talking to you. An emotional roller coaster, but it's been wonderful. It's a really inspirational story, and it's been such a pleasure watching your business grow and the joy that you take to your job every day. It's really clear why you do so well and why your clients love you so much. So thank you for taking the time to talk to us about it.
Thank you so much. And thank you to both of you for the unlimited support you have given me from day one. It's been amazing.
My pleasure.
You're welcome. Thanks very much, Mel.